Welcome back everyone to this interactive session week 9 for the course on Introduction to Multimodal Urban Transportation Systems. So myself Suman Ganguly, I am a research scholar at IIT Kharagpur. So as we done for the previous sessions, so today also I have designed some 7 questions, out of which I think one is only numerical and other questions are mainly theoretical. So we will discuss the theoretical questions as well as I will solve the numerical question, right? So then also your participation is necessary since it's an interactive session, right? So let's start with the question number 1. So which of the following is an objective of travel demand management? Which of the following is an objective of the travel demand management? So as you know, this week 9 material is also based on, or the course is course content is also based on the travel demand management strategies. What are the strategy? What are why you need travel demand management, and then different strategies, push-pull measures, and so on, right? So then what is the objective of this travel demand management? Is it to maximize the system efficiency? So that is, you will achieve you will maximize or optimize your system efficiency using the travel demand management strategies on road, right? B is reducing trips. So is it that it will reduce the trips? Is it the main objective of travel demand management strategies, or is it the redistributing the travel demand, right? So then which one is the correct option, or D is all of these above? All of these are the actually travel demand management strategies. So it's like, suppose you have a fixed capacity on road, right? Suppose your width is, like, you have some 2-lane road, width is 3.5 meters, which is the standard in Indian scenario. So then you have an excess of vehicles. So now instead of increasing the capacity, now you want to use some kind of travel demand management so that you can manage the traffic, because now there are excessive congestion is going on roads, right? Especially during peak hours. And a good example is the Bangalore situation, right? So then you are using travel demand management strategies. What sort of travel demand management strategies? So suppose you have a greater demand on during peak hour, right? So if you redistribute that demand by taking some kind of policy measure, suppose in case of Bangalore situation, the main traffic is due to the booming IT sector, right? So now suppose you are introducing policies of a different start and ending time of your work, right? So your work schedule has been, it is not that everyone is going at 9 and everyone is coming back at maybe say evening 6. Rather, you have multiple timings for entry and exit. So suppose someone, for some company and some people who are having that 7 to, suppose morning 7 to afternoon 2 schedule, and then the next I can say next package of employees are going, or they are departing at 9 and they may be leaving at 4, and then 11 and 6. So like that, if you redistribute your demand by changing your office timings, right, So then your at a time the number of vehicles that are plying on the road will be less, right? So in this way you can redistribute your demand, which is already happening here, right? Shifting. So then reducing trips, obviously suppose uh, you are allowing the work from home scenario which is happening during the COVID, right? Which is basically picking pace during COVID, because initially it was there, but it was mostly Western countries who were following this kind of hybrid situation where you were one day, once in a week or twice in a week, you are allowed to work from home, right? The rest of the days you want to travel. So you are basically on those weekends, you are basically reducing the trips, then you are reducing the whole demand. And if you do it in a proper planning manner by like, so for some employee it is Monday and Tuesday, some employee it is some other 2 days. So like that, if you do it in a proper manner, so then you can actually effectively minimize your demand, right? So then obviously if you apply these strategies, you will achieve the maximum system efficiency, right? You will have, I am not saying you won't have any congestion, but your level of service will be good. It suppose now it is F, maybe that time it will be maybe level of service C or D, which is at least acceptable, right? So here the correct answer would be D, right? So I hope it's clear. So, oh sorry, so here this is not this eraser. So now so second question is, discouraging car use is an example of which classification of TDM measure? So as I was also discussing, that travel demand management strategies are basically two types: pull measure and push measure. Push means, so you are pushing someone or abstaining someone from using his private mode of transport, and you are pulling him towards the using of sustainable public mode of transport, such as bus, metros, and other even non-motorized sustainable modes, right? So then, if you imagine, discouraging car use is obviously falls under what? Push or pull. It will be push. You are pushing the commuter or the owner of the vehicle to not use the car, right? And stretch is just a term here, it is not relevant in case of this TDM measure strategies, right? So here it is very straightforward, it will be and push, not pull, because you are pushing someone. So also you can argue that if you are attracting passenger towards public transport, suppose you have built a new metro line, right? So automatically you can imagine that people will be attracted to that metro. If the metro is fast, reliable, travel time is faster, maybe some of the people may not use this private mode of transport. It may happen, it's an induced effect, may happen. But still, it is not that you are penalizing your private mode of transport, right? So till that point you are not penalizing it. Maybe some people will use it out of their attractiveness to the system that you provided, but still it may not be sufficient. So that's why you need a push measure also. You need to negatively penalize them or penalize them. So the third question is, which of the following is a pull measure? So we were just discussing about the push measures, right? So that was discouraging car use is a push. So then what is a pull? So congestion pricing, parking pricing, is it vehicular restrictions or none of this. So which of the following is a pull measure? So then why we need congestion pricing? So suppose you have a road and you see that there are too much of demand during peak hour. So now you are start, because you already know the high demand stretches, suppose in a city. So now you know that this is the CBD area and these are the lanes which are connecting it, and these are the stretches which are heavily congested due to the high demand during maybe say peak 9 to 11 or whatever the peak hour period, even it's morning or it may be in the evening also, right? So then you start that if you enter in this region by using suppose private mode of vehicles, suppose it is not applicable, like if you enter it not using bus but using some private mode of transport, suppose in your own vehicle, or maybe some motorized thing, like suppose we do not want to price or do not want to charge suppose the pull service what is Uber is offering, Uber pull or something. So somehow if we can identify ki these are the pull Uber services and these are the allowed buses and pull services and the cycles and those are allowed, and other kind of motorized modes which are not allowed. Not allowed means that you need to pay some charge, and if your charge is relatively high and it will be per kilometer, so if you, or maybe per 100 meters also or whatever it is, so then you are discouraging someone from using the private mode of transport because you are trying to pulling out of him, pushing, you are pushing him out of the car because you are discouraging it, right? So then the parking pricing, obviously if you have a car you want to park it, right? So your parking charge is very high. So suppose generally what happens previously in Indian context, that if your 1 hour parking charge is say 30 rupees, so for 2 hours maybe it is 45 rupees. So the longer the duration is, the lesser the parking charges rate, per hour rate. Now what actually happens is that now that time this concept was different, so people are thinking that okay, we are parking the vehicles for longer longer for longer time, so your parking pricing should be low, and this decision usually taken by maybe politician or something, because you need to. So now what happens, we need to implement travel demand management measures. So now you need to heavily penalize him. So it is rather the opposite. So suppose for a first hour, if you are charging 30 rupees, maybe for the next 1 hour you should charge 40 rupees. It should not be less than that, or original 30 rupees, right? So if you charge it like that, especially during maybe peak hours, say, so peak hour people will be forced to use some other modes of transport, maybe pull service, or if you have attractive public transportation system, or if you have a good metro service, or maybe some kind of uh, urban light rail transit, like it is there in Kolkata also, the Mumbai metro rail service, if it is good then people will use it, right? So now the third one is the vehicular restriction. So then the parking pricing is a push. So you are pushing people to not using that private mode of vehicle. So what is then vehicular restriction? So suppose you are saying that CBD area from morning 9 to suppose night 7, it is not allowed to, like suppose private mode of transport or motorized mode of transport is not allowed to entry, suppose in a particular area, CBD area, but they can come to the CBD area, but you are not allowed to enter into the CBD area. Now suppose you want to park it nearby, right? So suppose you want to park it nearby and the parking charge is also, so now you have no means to use your private mode of transport. So it is also push measure, not a pull measure. And the question is, which of the following is a push measure? So the correct answer would be none of this, right? Because pull measure will be something like you are attracting someone to use the public transport. So maybe if you have a BRT service, new metro service, so those are the examples of pull measures, right? So then what is then cordon ring is used in road pricing, parking pricing, smart bike sharing system, none of the above. So if you see, the cordon ring means, suppose you have an area and you decided that if you enter it here, so suppose it's a road network, right? Suppose it's a road network. So now if you enter into the area from any side, maybe it is connected to different roads, so we will start charging. So road pricing will start, right? So if your road pricing will start, then so it's like that. So if you just hypothetically decide, okay, this is my cordon ring. So if you suppose you have a planned city, so they are kind of this kind of cordon ring you can easily identify, right? Like a concentric circle type of thing, right? So here if you see, it's a concentric circle and there are these kinds of roads are available, these kinds of roads. So then it is used in road pricing. But since it can happen that there could be more than one option correct, right? So we need to see for other system. So parking pricing, you may say we can use a cordon ring, but generally we don't use a cordon ring for the parking pricing. It is generally around the CBD area, whichever you park, you need to pay this amount of money. It is usually like that. And smart bike sharing system is nothing to do with cordon sharing. So generally it should be available throughout the city if any city has adopted it. So previously also some institutes, some IITs and also some IIMs maybe they have also, I think still they have maybe some kind of Ola bicycle sharing. So you can take the Ola, you can pay a minimum amount and then you can take the cycle, and also you can drop anywhere within the area, means within their uh, campus premises, right? So then cordon ring is used in roadway pricing predominantly. So then which of the following, or more than one option maybe, is not a scale of TOT? So TOT is what? TOT is transit oriented development. So what is transit oriented development? So the concept is, so if you have some transit lines, maybe metro corridor, bus corridor, or any kind of public transport corridor, you want people to live nearby your metro corridors or public transport corridors, so that your accessibility will be high. So majorly if you live near the station, public transit station like metro station and all, so uh, your accessibility will be good if you live nearby, right? And also it was initially this, and then people have think that then if I need something, then is it necessary that to travel all the time using because suppose you have designed your metro station and your other public transport bus station and in such a way that your maybe job or office area is nearby, or you can, your accessibility to the station has been good. So now if you have some other kind of activities to perform, like to attend a party, maybe to purchase something, right? So for those kinds of trips, still people, that accessibility may not be good. So if you design your neighborhood in such a way that those are available within a shorter distances, so maybe if you like, majority of the trips may be covered by your bicycles or walking, or maybe sometime one or two stop in transit and then taking a bicycle and going to that. So then it will be a more sustainable way to develop a city, right? So now it is about the transit oriented development scales. So which of the following is not a scale? So is it that transit oriented development can be developed at a district scale, or is it that it will develop at a city scale, or is it that it can be developed at a state scale, or is it that it will be developed at a country scale? So if you see, transit oriented development is most useful for a particular city, like a congested metro cities in India. So if you use transit oriented development there, then only it will, the concept will be in long term it will benefit you, because for a particular district you may not require those, because you have some hubs which are located at around those uh, heavily means the metro cities, right? So it is not that the whole, along the whole district you need this kind of development, because it may be sometimes costly also. So it should not be at such a large scale, like a district scale or state scale or even country scale. You are, because if it is in country scale, then you do not require transit oriented development. If you have such kind of I would say distributed systems rather than metropolitan oriented or metropolitan centric systems, then actually do not need those kinds of development. It will be relatively easy to travel, right? And those pertinent problems also won't arise, like congestion and the travel cost and the excessive emissions, right? So city scale is the maximum that you can do for any particular maybe metropolitan city, and also smaller scales are also available, like along a transit corridor maybe you can do it, right? So for particular, if you see the any particular corridor has been congested, then you developed a new transit line or developed a new metro system there, and then you can develop, you can try to incorporate the transit oriented development along that corridor, maybe along at a particular station also you can do it. Okay, so it is also A, also C, also D. These are not a scale of TOD generally. So then what does the shaded yellow part in the figure below indicates, right? So it's a, so if you see, this is cost per trip, this is per trip, per trip. So now this is your demand curve. Demand curve is what? So if your trip of a cost is very high, so your passenger demand is low, right? And then as you keep on decreasing your price, so your passenger demand will be higher, right? So more and more people will avail that service. So it is the demand curve. So now this is what? This is a private cost curve and this is a social cost curve. So private cost here essentially means, so if you are using a particular vehicle or your own vehicle, what is the fuel cost and the maintenance cost, you can consider as it a private cost. And the social cost, it includes private cost plus some additional cost that is to the society, like suppose you are emitting gases. So and if I express it to the monetary sums, then what is the additional cost? And then if you if you are using your private vehicle and if you suppose accident occurs, right? So then what is the cost? And this accident cost maybe in terms of if the life has been lost, so that cost, and also suppose a person is injured, then what are the additional cost to the society? Like suppose he is not able to go to work, right? He needs some days to take rest and recover, and hospital expenses, and those are, you can consider is as a social cost, right? So now the question is, what does the shaded yellow part in the big figure below indicates, right? So if you see, this is the shaded area, yellow. Also I am using the yellow pen, so it is same. So now if you see, this is the D point and this is C point, right? So if you're at a particular constant demand, if your private cost is something per trip and your social cost is something else per trip, then what is the difference between those? What is the difference between your social cost and the private cost? So if you subtract the social cost with the private cost, what is indicates? Is it indicate the efficiency gained? Is it the revenue earned, or is it the congestion price earned? So suppose you have a particular demand and your private vehicle cost is some unit C1, right? And your social cost unit is at that particular demand is C3. So now if so your additional cost is what? Social cost minus private cost. So this is the cost to the society, not your private cost, right? So suppose I am introducing some kind of system, like in a road pricing system, or uh, toll operation system, from which I will take back some money, right? And if I take back the C3 minus C1, that amount of money per trip from you, additionally from a toll which is operational on that particular stretch, so that is, then that will be my revenue earned, right? So it may not be this straightforward, because even if you are imposing a toll, so there are certain people uh, who, like demand will immediately reduce, right? So suppose scenario is Q1 is the initial scenario where this A1 and B1 is your private cost and social cost. Now you introduce a tolling system, so immediately your demand has been reduced because you have introducing a toll system. So my personal cost will increase, so my demand will decrease immediately, right? So my demand is decreasing. So now, because I have introduced a toll system, so whatever my revenue earned is this C3 minus C1, right? So it is not efficiency, but it is the revenue earned. So this is the last question, and it is the numerical one. So it is about the parking. It is not so much of difficult. It is relatively a straightforward thing. So from an in and out survey conducted for a parking area consisting of 40 bays. So a parking area has 40 bays, right? 40 bays means the capacity is 40. Not in terms of hours, but at a particular time. So the initial count, so initial already there were 25 vehicles, right, at the time of your survey. So now table gives on the result of the survey, right? So number of vehicles coming in and out of the parking lot for a time interval of 5 minutes is as shown in the table below. So as you can see, the number of at each 5 minutes interval, 5, 10, 15, and then up to 60. So in that 1 hour, so how many vehicles are are, are in for parking, and how many vehicles are out, but for particular time interval. So it is noted down. So you need to find the accumulation of parking, total parking road, average occupancy, and the efficiency of the parking road. So now suppose first I need to see that the what is the parking accumulation. So what is the parking accumulation? So parking accumulation is nothing but, so suppose in 5 minutes, so 3 is in and 2 is out, so remaining is 1 vehicles, but previously I have counted 25 vehicles. So now I have 25 plus 3 minus 2. So now 26 vehicle I have 5 minutes. So now in 10 minutes what will happen? So it will happen that 2 vehicles are in, means 26 plus 2 28, and 4 vehicles are out. So it will be 24, right? So you are getting it. So now if you calculate it, so you will get the parking accumulation. So also if I write for 15 also, so 24 plus 4 is 28 minus 2 is 26. So now at 20 is 26 plus 5 31, 31 minus 4 is 27. So now 25 is what? 27 plus 7 is how much? 34, 34 minus 3, so 31. So now suppose at 30, already we have 31 vehicles, 8 vehicles entering, 39 is 37, 2 vehicles are out. So then at 35 what will happen? 37 37 plus 2 is 39, 39 minus 7 is how much? 39 minus 7 is 32. So like this you can calculate your parking accumulation, right? So this question has been answered, so let me just erase it. So I am erasing these parts. So now you have 26. Suppose the second is the total parking load, right? So what is the total parking load? So parking load is what? Parking load is number of vehicles into time and the summation, right? So it is like number of vehicles in each time period into the time period itself, right? So if you add 26 into 5, then uh, suppose 28 minus 24 is 24, so then maybe your 24 into 5, right, because interval is 5, same interval. So like that if you add it for everything, then you will get a total parking load, right? So whatever it will come, how much it will come, your parking load, if you calculate it, it will be 1735, right? 1735, when your parking load is kind of vehicle hour kind of thing, right? So now you need average occupancy. So what is average occupancy? So occupancy and efficiency, they are usually the same thing, and it is equivalent to the parking index, right? So what is your parking index? So parking index is how many for a particular time period, how many vehicles are there? 26, right? So now the total is 40 bays. So your number of vehicles is 26 and your bay is 40. So if you do it 26 by 40 and you multiply it with 100%, so you will get 65% for this 5-minute interval. This is 65%, right? So then you need to calculate what is the parking accumulation, and then you need to divide it to the 40, because your maximum number is available is 40. So it is basically for each time interval how many vehicles are available for, means how many spaces are available for parking, and what is the number of vehicles, because total is fixed 40 ways, you have 40 ways or 40 spaces, and then your each 5 it is changing, right? 26, then 24, then whatever the value will come, right? So based on that you can calculate for all the values, and then you can take the average to find what is your average occupancy, right? So you need to calculate and you will get your average occupancy. So then if you want to calculate your efficiency of the parking plot, it is the same parking index only, but it is not for a particular time period, but it is for the whole uh, entire thing, right? So suppose your 40 bay means your capacity is 40 into your time is 1 hour, right? So 40 into 1 hour in terms of vehicle hour. Now suppose your uh, parking load is how much? You need to see what is the parking load. Parking load suppose 1735, right? Suppose it is 1735. Then okay, 1735 is vehicle hour, or it is something else that we need to see once, because 26 into 5, then it is vehicle, I think minutes, not hour, it is I think minutes. So if it is a minutes, so then 1 hour is 60 minutes. So then your 1735 by this value. So then 1735 by 40 into 60, 72.29 is your overall this efficiency of the parking, right? 72.1. So I think it's clear. It's not a complicated thing to calculate. This although this this screen looks messy because I am using the mouse, so I could not write it properly also, but I think you got the idea. For each time interval you know what is the in and out, so you plus and minus it, so how many are remaining, and because you have already 25 vehicles, so you need to add it. So like that you do it for each time interval, and that is your parking accumulation, right? So what is your parking load? Parking accumulation per interval into the time period. So here your time period is 5 to 10 means 5, 10 to 11 is 5 minutes, then your equal 5 minutes time interval is there. So you add it, you will get the parking load in vehicle hour or vehicle minute, right? Means vehicle time. So then your average occupancy is nothing but what is your per time interval, what is the number of ways is 40, and then what is the number of vehicles are actually parked. So if you divide it, that is called the occupancy for each time interval, and what is the average is you average for all the observation from 5 to 60, right? So now the overall efficiency of the parking plot, so you have already calculated the parking load, you know the parking capacity is 40 bay into 60 minutes, so total time is 60, so that is called the vehicle hour distribution. So if you divided it, you will get the efficiency of the parking plot, right? So it is efficiency here is 72.19. So I think it is very straightforward and clear to you. If you calculate it, then you will get it, right? So this brings us to the end of this session from my side. So I hope the session will be useful to you, and It will help you to solve the problems and also understanding some of the theoretical concepts if you have not understood it already. So I think today with this we can close the session, because that's what I designed for you. So we will meet in the next week, that is week 10, and we are also reaching closer toward the end of this interactive session as well as the course, right? So okay, thank you all.